Hi there, everybody. It's Coach Melanie Potock, here to talk to you about sneaking veggies. Should you do it or shouldn't you? Well, my answer is maybe. Hey, if you're out there joining the live broadcast, be sure to make a comment and just let us know you're there. Say, hey, I'm here in the UK, I'm here in Virginia, whatever it might happen to be. And we'll get started here in just a second. We're going to be talking about whether we should sneak veggies into kids' snacks. Should we tell them if there's veggie puree in those cupcakes? Should we add some avocado to the smoothie and not let them know? Or is there a certain way to get around that? We're going to be talking about that in just a second. I'm going to give everybody about 1 more minute to join in. We're going to be covering a few things from my new book, Adventures in Veggie Land, that hits bookshelves at the end of January. So I'm excited about that. Hi, Amy. So fun to see everybody. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay. Should you sneak veggies? Well, I have to tell you, I've changed my stance on this over the years. And the reason why is because as a pediatric feeding therapist, I work with a lot of families. So that means not just the kiddo who's having trouble with eating, but I work with the parents too. And I always say when I'm teaching my courses around the United States that my biggest obstacle to helping these families isn't the child's oral motor skills. It isn't the fact that maybe they're struggling with gastroesophageal reflux or perhaps some sort of physical anomaly like a tongue tie. It's always the parent's fear. It's the parent's fear that gets in the way more than anything else. And I get that. I had my own picky eater. I know how scary it is to worry about your child's nutritional health. So I've changed my stance a little bit because if there's something that I can do to alleviate the parent's fear that their child isn't getting adequate nutrition, or frankly, I've got parents who worry their kids are going to die, and I'm being very, very serious there. There's something I can do to alleviate that fear, even for that garden variety picky eater, because man, that's stressful too. I'm going to do it. So I always say to my parents, if it makes you feel better to add a scoop of avocado to your kid's smoothie, or it makes you feel better rather than adding corn oil to the brownies to add beet puree, absolutely do it. Do it. But we're going to be talking about some ways that we can really get the kids involved in the process so they're very aware that beet puree goes into chocolate cupcakes and they don't even think twice about it. But before we do, let's talk about how many servings of vegetables are kids supposed to get each day anyway. Well, I have a little visual here for you. I want you to think about a toddler, a preschooler, and an elementary school kid. They all should get 2 to 3 servings of vegetables a day. But how much is a serving really? Well, it has to do with volume more than anything else. So, extra large chicken egg. That is what I want you to visualize if you have a toddler. I want you to see your little toddler, that little munch bug, holding that egg in his hand. That is a serving of vegetables for a toddler. That's the size we're talking about. It's not much. Give this to your child 2 to 3 times a day. An egg's worth of vegetables. If you've got, I'm being careful not to break my egg here. If you've got a preschooler, I want you to think about half of a tennis ball. I stole this tennis ball from my golden retriever. Right now, you can't see us staring at me in the background like, that's my ball. A half of a tennis ball is the equivalent to 1 serving of vegetables for a preschooler. So I want you to visualize your preschooler with a half of a tennis ball in their hand. 2 to 3 times a day is when they get that half of a tennis ball. And finally, if you've got a child who's a little bit older than that in elementary school, they get a whole tennis ball. 2 to 3 times a day, this much vegetable. Okay? All right, great. Let's keep going then and talk about what we can do. Hi, Jody. Let's get going and talk about what we can do if we're not going to add fresh vegetables yet into some of our recipes. We're going to be talking about beets here in just a minute. But I want to show you something really cool. You know, one of my favorite products is Orgain. I know all of you have heard me talk about it, but I'm a big fan of Orgain. You just go to Orgain.com. We'll put the link in the comments for you. And if you are a healthcare professional, there's a specific tab on their website, you can't miss it, where you can order free samples. And just fill in, let them know what you're interested in, and they'll send you samples of this. And parents, make sure you click on their coupon tab. That coupon tab is going to give you great coupons so that you can try a little bit of what I affectionately call monkey milk, because it's got a little monkey on the front. But it's actually called the Kids Protein Shake. And the reason why I love this is it's all organic. It has 8 grams of organic plant-based protein. It has 3 grams of dietary fiber, 21 vitamins and minerals, and it's 200 calories a serving. So you know what? For a lot of my kids that are on some of those substitutes that so often are recommended by pediatricians, no offense to my pediatricians, I love them, but they have sort of a go-to drink that they like to recommend. And I'd really rather the kids had something that was organic, that was yummy, that wasn't overly sweet, and that if I needed to add a little bit more calories to it, frankly, all I do is I take a tiny little syringe and I just pull up a little bit of melted coconut oil. I stick it in the top, on the chocolate one especially. I give it a good shake, and I've got an extra 30 calories in there. So you can add anything you wanted if you wanted to boost this up. And we're going to talk about how we can maybe use something like the Orgain Protein Shake in a smoothie if you do need to add more calories to your child's diet, because I know so many of us are working with kids who are severely underweight. All right, so Orgain.com. I just learned about this other product and I'm really excited about it. So bear with me. I'm trying not to jump up and down because this very nice company here in Boulder, where I'm from, Boulder, Colorado, sent me samples of these little bakery bites. They come in all different flavors and they've got veggies inside every single one. Let me show you what they look like. So this package is a serving. This is called Farm and Oven Bakery Bites. And inside the package, this one happens to be the beet and zucchini, beet dark chocolate inside, are these yummy little bakery bites. And fairly low in sugar, I have to say. This entire package, which is 3 of these, has 13 grams of sugar for this particular flavor. Now, we know that kids, we need to limit the amount of sugar that kids consume on a daily basis, especially our young kids. Preschoolers should have from age 2 to 18. The kids have a different amount of sugar grams that they're allowed to consume. I hate that word allowed, but you know what I mean, according to the American Heart Association. And for your preschoolers, I want you to think about 25 grams. So yeah, let's talk about this. We're not going to be giving these to our kids all day long, but I don't think Farm and Oven expects you to. The idea here is that if you want to get in 40% of an adult daily serving of vegetables, while we're teaching kids to love vegetables, this is a nice way to alleviate your fear. So Farm and Oven, And they have all different flavors. They're not gluten-free, but they're working on a gluten-free version. And, you know, as many of you who ever tune in to me know, I have to really limit my gluten because I have some peripheral neuropathy, and limiting gluten really helps me with that. But I got to admit, I took a bite of each one of these, and you guys, they're really yummy. So they're also chewy and very, very consistent in texture, which I know a lot of our kids who are in feeding therapy or a lot of our picky eaters really need that consistent texture. So I wanted to be sure to share this with you. There's the chocolate one. And we've got, gosh, yummy, carrot cinnamon, pumpkin maple pecan, that's kind of seasonal, and zucchini lemon poppy seed. These are kind of nice and tart for your kids who like a little bit more punch. All right, so I'm going to set these aside for a minute, and we'll keep going with some other ways that we can buy some products to add a little nutrition to our kids while we're hoping to get some vegetables into them. I wanted to be sure to mention, if you're not familiar with it, it's the time of year. This is Barlean's Greens, and I have been using this product for years. It makes a fabulous hot chocolate. It's a powder, and you can mix it in with regular dairy milk if you'd like. I mix mine with water. You can add a little bit of sweetener if you'd like. I never have to, but in case your kids are used to a really, really sweet hot chocolate. And it adds in a variety of nutrients made from powdered greens. So it's a great way to boost your nutritional content. It's also a great way to talk to kids about powdered vegetables. Have you ever heard of these? You know, the little bakery bites that I was just showing you from Farm and Oven, they have so much vegetable squeezed into that little bite because they use air-dried veggies. So there are specific farms that evaporate the water content from their vegetables, and then what's left is just the nutrients, and they use those in baking. And this is a similar product. I'm trying to look at there's the front for the camera for you. This is a very similar product to that. So I wanted to be sure to let you know about that, because we're going to talk about using smoothies as a way to help kids learn to love vegetables. And I like to add this to smoothies as well. So bear with me, I'm going to reach for one more thing here. Let's talk about smoothies. More coming, but let's get started with these. I'm a big fan. As soon as kids start feeding therapy with me, we start with smoothies. And I do that because, once again, if I can hide or teach the child to include certain vegetables in their smoothie, it alleviates the parent's fear. And when I've got a child who perhaps needs an extra 100 to 200 calories a day, I'm going to get them started on a tiny little, for lack of a better word, shot of a smoothie that he's going to have at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And that smoothie is going to be boosted with nutrients to help the parents breathe a little easier, sleep a little bit easier. So let's talk about how to do that. First of all, I want to talk about orange juice and oranges. The most common way that people make smoothies is they start with orange juice. And, you know, I'm not a big fan of juice. It's really just vitamin C and sugar. If you're going to add orange juice, do me a favor, and instead of pouring sugar into your blender, let me grab my blender. This is my favorite. This is the Blend Tech. You can throw a shoe in this thing and make shoe soup. It's amazing. But what you can also do is peel an orange and just pull out any little seeds, or get a seedless version, and put that entire orange in there, because now you're getting the fiber and all the really important nutrients from the fruit, and they are all just squeezed out, and you're not just getting the juice. So you'll get the same added flavor, but you'll get additional benefits as well. Then, if I happen to be working with a family and we're learning about smoothies, I go into people's homes. So I usually have a mom there, maybe a dad, hopefully a sibling, but there's usually at least 2 people who are willing to buy a smoothie from, say, the 5-year-old I'm working with, because now we have established a smoothie store. And the way we do that is we get whatever blender they have. You could use a Magic Bullet. I might bring my own, whatever the family happens to have. And if we're trying to hide a little bit of green, like spinach, I'm going to choose something like dark cherries. These are frozen, or blueberries, and or a chocolate powder, because those darker colors will hide the green, but the kid's going to know the green is in that smoothie. I'm going to show you how. When you're working with a child, you want to lay out all of your ingredients and explain to him that mom or dad is going to come up and order a smoothie. And I have to apologize. I have these beet greens right in front of me, and I love beets, but they get my allergies going a little bit. Excuse me. This is live. So we are going to have a smoothie store, and the parents are going to come up, make sure they've got a penny or a nickel or something to pay for the smoothie, and I might have some little Dixie cups lined up. I prefer, ideally, I love little tiny cups. I collect them whenever, especially this time of year, they're really popular at some of the cooking stores. You'll find them on the clearance rack. They're made for little kids' hot chocolate, but I use them for smoothies. And so I'll bring these sweet little cups over, or we'll use Dixie cups, and we'll line up the cups. And then what I want you to do is you can either grab a standard straw from like Starbucks. The point is that you want it to be a fairly wide diameter. Not too wide. You want the kids to be able to suck through the straw, but you don't want it so thin that they can't get the smoothie up through the straw. And then I just take my scissors and I cut, and I'm going to put the straw, look at this, you guys, just barely above the cup. And the reason why I do that is because the kiddo is going to be sampling these smoothies before he gives it to the customer. And I want them close to the smoothie so that when they take a sip, it easily lands on their tongue. If you have a really long straw, that kiddo will just sort of pretend to suck, and they really will never let it come up to their tongue. That being said, I definitely have some clients who have severe sensory aversions to aromas. And if you've got perhaps a child with autism who cannot handle the aroma of the cherries or the avocado or whatever you may have put in there, a longer straw is going to help with that, because his nose is going to be farther away from the smoothie itself. So just a side note. So grab some Starbucks straws or some fast food straws, whatever you want to do, or just pick up some fun ones from the craft store. And that one might even be a little bit too long. Let's see here. There we go. And what you're going to do is help the kiddo. Daddy comes over and says, I'm ready to order my smoothie, and you have all the products out here. And he says, I would like 2 cherries. Now, ideally, see if the kid can't pick up the cherry. This is all in the family. A little kid can touch daddy's food. And we've washed our hands first too. Ideally, you want him to be able to pick up a cherry and drop it in. You know, that's a pretty quick release. They can get rid of it fairly quickly. But if they have to, they could also pick it up and dump a few in, or use a spoon. Then he might say, and I'd like a slice of avocado, please. Last week, we talked about different ways that you can slice up food so that it's safe for kids. So take a look back at last week's Facebook Live. It's pinned to the top of my page. And perhaps add a little bit of avocado. And perhaps daddy's going to say, can I have 1 piece of spinach? And you know those kids, they're like, what I've already clued daddy into is I want him to say, well, actually, can I have 3? And now the kiddo's picking up spinach. 1, 2, 3. Okay. That kid knows that veggies are going into the smoothie. Not a lot. Then we have to think about the liquid. If you want your smoothie to blend really well, by the way, add your solids first and pour your liquid over it. It'll make for a smoother consistency. And we know consistency is so important for our picky eaters. A couple different things you can do. Again, I'm not a big fan of juice. So if you'd like to use an antioxidant-rich juice like pomegranate or, oh my goodness, beet juice is a fabulous one, you don't need very much. Maybe just a tablespoon or two, and then use water or milk for the rest. You might even consider adding in chocolate or vanilla or strawberry monkey milk, depending on the flavor of smoothie you're making. All you do is just poke a hole and squeeze it through, or they all come with a little straw as well. Another option is to use coconut water. I would probably still dilute this a little bit, but if you want that little bit of sweetness that we're searching for, a little bit of a frozen banana will thicken it up and provide some sweetness. Some frozen grapes will do the same thing, or something like coconut milk, especially if you're making more of a tropical smoothie. Speaking of, I want to make sure that we add into the comments section. On my website, mymunchbug.com or melaniepotock.com, I have a free toolbox, and it's under the Picky Eater course tab, because when I teach my Picky Eater course, which is my online course for parents or professionals, I refer to that tab quite a bit. There are so many fun things that you can download there, including the Green Dragon smoothie recipe. Now that's for kids who don't mind green, or you're introducing a green smoothie and they've been drinking all types of smoothies already. So I want to make sure you have that recipe as well. Okay, another little tip, you want to boost up some calories, add a little bit of hopefully organic coconut milk. Very inexpensive. If it's been sitting on your shelf for a while, when you open the lid, you'll notice that it's separated. That thicker part is called coconut cream. Very high in calories. Just take a spoonful of that, plop it in there. There's some extra good nutrient-rich calories for your kiddo who might be a little bit underweight. So once the kiddo has blended up the smoothie, then what I want you to do, remember Daddy's standing there ready with his nickel, is help the child. You've made a fairly small smoothie. Help the child take the pitcher, the blender pitcher, and pour into your little cup. Try to go all the way to the top if you can. And what I always say is, I whisper in their ear and I say, we always test the product before we give it to the customer. I have never had a kid yet not take a tiny sip and then immediately turn to Daddy and say, it's really good, and then want their nickel. So now you've got a kid who just tasted that flavor smoothie, and off Daddy goes with it. Then maybe mommy or big sister or auntie, grandma come over and they order a different combination of the smoothie. Now, take whatever amount you have left, pour it into an extra cup and set it aside and build your new smoothie. Now that you've got the new smoothie that, say, mommy just ordered, again, help the child pour it into mommy's tiny little cup. It's very underwhelming. Remember to always keep new foods underwhelming. And, oh, hang on, mommy, I need to test it. He takes a little sip and hands it to mommy. Now he's tasted a new flavor. Take what's left in here, pour it into another cup and set it aside. And do that for as many people in the house. So let's say we have 3 different flavors. Now that everybody has their smoothie, you can turn to your little learning eater, because remember, I never say picky eater in front of my kids, and say, all right, we tried these different smoothies. Let's line them up and tell me which one you like the best. And maybe they decide they liked the one in the green cup, the one that Daddy ordered the best. And then the one with mommy ordered, they like second best, or maybe they didn't like it at all. That's okay. We're just tasting it. This is the smoothie you're going to start with for them. And I'll tell them that. Awesome. You picked this one. This one's your favorite. All right. This is the one you get for lunch. Fantastic. When we sit down for lunch, we'll have a nice little lunch together and work on some foods that we've been trying in feeding therapy. But at the very end, what I teach the kids to do is, hey, you know what? You ready to be all done? Let's be sure to finish our smoothie. And they'll just 2 or 3 sips and off they go. I always treat it like the way my mom used to treat me taking my vitamins. She always said to me, are y'all done with lunch? Okay, take your Flintstone vitamin. And it's just a habit. I'd pop it in my mouth and I'd chew it as I walked away. I take the same approach with calorie boosters like this. Awesome. Let's just cheers, finish our smoothie, and let's get down. And it's so easy to do, especially with a straw, that the kids will drink it right down and run off and play. So, what have we done there? First of all, we've alleviated the parents' fear because they now feel better and they know their kid got a nice little smoothie shot of nutrients, and they can do that breakfast, lunch, and dinner. By the end of the day, that's an extra 100 to 200 calories, including some veggies that the kids saw go in and disappear. And everybody feels better about the situation. So whether you're going to offer some prepackaged snacks like a monkey milk, or whether you're going to incorporate smoothies, vegetables, that sort of thing into a snack that you make together, the point is that don't make a big deal about the vegetable. So often I think we feel a little guilty and we feel like we need to say, you know what, these new brownies I made, they've got black beans in them, or these chocolate cupcakes have beet puree. Well, think about it. It's not like when I go to the neighborhood cookie exchange next week, I'm going to announce to everybody that my new sugar cookie recipe has corn oil in it. We just don't do that, right? I have this favorite recipe that I posted on the My Munchbug Facebook page about a week ago. It's the chewy chocolate chip recipe, chewy chocolate chip cookie recipe, hard to say. And it's my favorite. It's so good. But you know what? It's made with garbanzo bean flour. It is really rich in protein. It's really good for you. I don't ever tell the kids it's got garbanzo bean flour in it. We don't do that anyway. We don't say, hey, those brownies, they've got whole wheat flour in them. So I guess what I'm trying to say is cut yourself a break. It's okay if you need to hide a few vegetables every once in a while, but ideally, try to get the kids involved in the process. Let's talk a little bit more about that, and then we'll take some questions. When we're getting kids involved in the process, always consider what your kid can do. Not what you want him to do, but what could he do on this particular day? I want you to think about other things that you've taught your child to do. You know, here in Colorado, the ski season's about to start. When we're first teaching little ones how to ski, yeah, we'd love them to be able to zip down an expert run with daddy. But first, they've got to go on the bunny hill. You have to think about what they can do and help them do that on that particular day in order to boost their confidence. So if we're going to be adding, let's say, roasted beets to a chocolate smoothie, maybe on this particular day, the only thing your kiddo can do is help scrub and wash the beets and maybe even chop them with a child-safe knife. You might have to make the beet puree. That's okay. Know that you can always freeze beet puree. You can freeze it and keep it in your freezer for up to 3 months and add it as you go. You can use any sort of vegetable puree in a lot of different ways. In my new book, Adventures in Veggieland, I show you a lot of tips, actually over 100 activities and recipes to help kids learn to love vegetables through food play, through adding them to cooking. Every single dessert, and there's 20 desserts in here, has a vegetable added to it. My feeling is, how do kids know that chocolate cupcakes don't always contain beet puree? So let's start early. Let's get them used to vegetables just showing up all the time. Okay, back to our beets, and then we'll take some questions. If you want to know how to roast beets, I have a little hint for you. You can look inside Adventures in Veggieland on Amazon, and these particular pages are part of the Look Inside feature. So you don't even have to buy it. Just go on Amazon. We'll put it in the comment section, and you can click on Look Inside, and on page 17, I have a sidebar on that page that shows you how to roast beets, and Page 20 and 21 tells you how to saute the greens and how to do that with your kiddo. So just a little side note for you. So let's take some questions. Let's see if anybody has questions about hiding vegetables, how to get kids involved in the cooking process, how to do more what I call stir-ins, where you create a lot of different purees, you put them in Ziploc bags, you freeze them in your freezer, and you add them to a variety of different foods. I don't see any questions popping up yet. Let me just double check here. Oh, there they are. Oh, Creative Speech Lab has a question. Are the bakery bites safe for kids with allergies? Go to their website. They have a section there on allergies, and they're wonderful. You can actually email them and ask them about a specific child that you're concerned about. Because, we always want to be careful about the processing of any sort of product, even something as fresh and wonderful as a farm and oven product. So when these are made in the factory, we also have to consider were other products that perhaps that contain nuts or eggs or dairy also made in that same machinery. So my advice is I personally will always check the box itself. But if I have a child with a severe allergy, I call the manufacturer and I double check with them. So I really want to encourage you to do that with Farm and Oven. They're wonderful people, and I'm sure they'll be able to answer your question. Let's see what other questions we've got here. Oh, hi, Erin. Oh my gosh, Carly Emma, that's my daughter, my previous picky eater, now reformed. Still working on cilantro. She's tuned in. I want to do a little shout out here before we keep going. Erin Geddes is a good friend of mine who has just now started a private practice in Colorado. And Erin, will you do me a favor and put your link to your private practice in the comments section? Because any of the people who are watching in Colorado, I think they need to know about you because she's fabulous. Side note. All right, let's go ahead and talk a little bit now about when it's never okay to sneak vegetables. It's never okay if you even have any sort of suspicion that it might break down your child's trust. I particularly notice this with my teenage clients. If they find out that mom put beets in the chocolate cupcakes, and they've been eating those several times this week, and she suddenly announces it because she's excited, they'll stop eating those cupcakes. So if you're worried about that, because you know your child better than anybody else, my thought is don't sneak. However, you also don't have to announce. So perhaps if you've got a preschooler and you are helping them, they're helping you to make chocolate cupcakes and you're adding beets. Again, don't call a lot of attention to it. Treat it just like any other ingredient in your chocolate cupcakes. But also get those kids involved. So they're dumping in the beets, they're stirring up the beets. Maybe you come up with a fun name for it. Maybe instead of calling them beets, if you think that's really going to be frightening to that child, maybe you call them, maybe you call it superpower puree. That's okay with me. I've got a little kiddo in the Denver area who has to take a purple liquid supplement every day, and it has his probiotics in it. But he's 5. We don't say to him, take your probiotics. We say, take your purple magic potion. And he loves it, and he'll take it. So it's okay to have a little bit of salesmanship when you're working with kids. Oh, Lauren has a question here. What are some ideas to get a 1.5-year-old involved? Is that too young? No. As soon as kids can sit upright, I want them right here next to me, even in their high chair in the kitchen. 1.5-year-olds, one of the best ways to introduce them to fruits and vegetables is not only to get them involved in the kitchen, but to include board books that have pictures of fruits and vegetables. There's very good research that shows, and it's noted in my book, that when children of that age, all the way up to about age 2.5, look at pictures of vegetables and mommy and daddy read about vegetables in a board book, they're more likely to try vegetables. And why? Because we're already building familiarity. Other ways that you can include those younger ones in the process would be to make sure that they have some child-safe knives. Hang on one second, I'll pull one out for you. I wasn't going to show this tonight, but I want to answer your question. Just a minute. I showed these last week on my Facebook Live. Got a couple different ones here for you. My favorite of all time child-safe knives are by Kuhnrikon, Kuhnrikon. And look, they're doggies. And they will not cut you. They will not cut you. They come in a serrated version and in just a plain edge version. And I love them because the handles are just right for little hands to reach over and grab. And then they have these little tails. So we teach the kids that the ears and the tail goes up, just like a regular dog, and they can chop with these. So you know what, if you roasted your beets and you want to get those kids started with beet puree, give them the roasted beets and have them chop them up. They're super easy to chop through. Have them maybe chop up some of the things that are going in the smoothie and then add it in. Make those kids a part of the process. You know, think about it. Think about that 1.5 to 2-year-old. I remember when my kids, Mallory and Carly, when they were little, if I needed 5 minutes to talk on the phone, I reached into my cabinet and I grabbed a wooden spoon and a metal pot and I put it on the floor and let them pretend to cook. They love pretending. So getting them involved with some of these real foods, we do that right away. And in the Dr. Yum kitchen, Dr. Yum, Namali Fernando, is my co-author of Raising a Healthy Happy Eater. She has cooking classes for itty bitties with mom and dad to attend with them, especially some of the younger baby food classes that aren't necessarily focused on purees as much as they are just getting the kids involved in the kitchen. Oh, hi, Kelly. Good to see you. Oh, you're the best. And Nancy too. She says, can you please post the name of those knives? Yes. It is, I'm going to have somebody in the back room post it. It's Kuhnrikon, Kuhnrikon. You can also find these doggy knives not only on Amazon, but if you go to dryum.org, Dr. Yum's website, they are available on the Dr. Yum Project store. And they're the same price, but the Dr. Yum Project, which is a nonprofit, gets a little bit of a portion of the proceeds. So that's a nice way to order them as well. This is great having everybody tune in. I'm just looking for any other questions. Fantastic. Let's see. I think we've covered most of it. Oh, one more thing. I wanted to talk to you about popsicles. When you are using what I call stir-ins, which are all different types of veggie puree that you can add to anything. You can add to, my goodness, oatmeal, baking products. You know, you can often substitute any sort of vegetable puree for half of the oil in brownies, in cookies, etc. Save some of that puree and use it to make some popsicles for your kids. Be sure you're using a child-size mold. These are super. This particular silicone one I have is by the Hopeful Company, Hopfull. And I love it because it's really flexible and easy to get the popsicles out. But they're the ones who taught me that if you take a little wooden spoon and you put it into your popsicle as it's freezing, that the kids can hold on to it better. I love this because they put their thumb right here on the wooden spoon part and the stick goes into the popsicle itself. Does that make sense? So look, they have this to hold on to. I love that. The other thing I want you to know about popsicles, especially with our kids who are hesitant eaters, and then we'll wind up here, is that you always want to think about temperature. So often we pull a popsicle straight out of the freezer and it's icy cold. And that can be a really uncomfortable feeling on your tongue, especially if you've ever had that awful feeling of your tongue getting stuck to something frozen. That's so scary. Instead, when they pull it out, give your kids a cup of water. Let me show you what I mean. And take that popsicle and let them stir it around in the water. That will flavor the water. You can add a straw there if they want to sample the flavor by having popsicle water. But also what it'll do is it'll bring the temperature down just slightly so that they can take a lick and not have that awful icy, almost brain freeze kind of feeling. It's much easier to lick the flavor off a popsicle when it's wet and you're really just licking flavored water than to lick the popsicle itself, especially for a lot of our kids with sensory challenges. And then if you want to, you can even put a little bit of warm water in there if you think you need to take it down a little bit more in terms of temperature. I think, unless we have more questions, what's monkey milk? Sherry wants to know. Let's go over that one more time, Sherry. Happy to tell you because I love this product. So this is by Orgain. The link should be in the comment section for you. And I call it monkey milk with all my kids because it has a monkey on the front. I go into school cafeterias and so many of the kids drink this. You can get it at Costco. In our Colorado Costco, they always have the chocolate flavor, and just check in your Costco to see what they have. You can get it almost at any grocery store. And as I was saying earlier, make sure you go to Orgain.com, click on coupons, and there'll be coupons if you want to buy just an individual pack or a smaller pack rather than the big box from Costco, so you can get to know it a little bit better. By the way, if you have a child who will only drink chocolate milk, like the super sugary, sweet, pour in the syrup kind, and you want to get them onto a healthier version of chocolate milk, when you go to Orgain.com, search under my name, Potock, and I wrote a blog for them how to transition kids from a sugary sweet chocolate drink to a healthier one. And it'll show you step by step how to do that. So you can warm this up. You can make hot chocolate. It comes in vanilla and strawberry. You can add it to smoothies, especially if you want to hide some of the green that we were talking about. You can make all sorts of amazing recipes. I'm really excited because at the Food and Nutrition Conference this year, which is the big registered dietitian conference that is held every fall, I'll be doing a book signing of Adventures in Veggieland at the Orgain booth. They're so excited about this particular book. They've been wonderful supporters. But as I said, I've been using this product for years. I swear by it, and I talk about it in all my courses. So I'm really glad to tell you about it. All righty. Hi, Judy. There's my friend Judy from Feeding Littles. Hey, Judy, put your website in the comments for everybody so they know how to access your information as well. Judy's a great OT who also contributed a recipe to Adventures in Veggieland, her famous pigs in a blanket, which are Polish sausage rolls. And she and I have been friends for a long time. She's a wonderful partner in crime here in Colorado and loves helping kids eat and enjoy new foods as much as I do. So I'm happy to see she tuned in. Awesome. Hi, Joan. Thanks for the congratulations. Well, I think if anybody doesn't have any more questions, we might wind up just there. Let me just end on one note. No matter whether you're a professional, a feeding therapist, registered dietitian, anybody who loves kids and food and family as much as I do, or whether you're a parent tuning in, I really want everybody to take a minute to think about that this is a journey. Take it step by step and know that it's going to take time. So if there's one thing I want you to focus on, it's the fun. This really can be fun. And if I can just say it one more time, that's why I spent so much time writing this new book, Adventures in Veggieland. I wanted to give you a year's worth of activities and recipes and walk you through 4 different seasons of vegetables so that you could start with any vegetable that you want to and build from there and know that you got to give it some time. So here's wishing you happy holidays and a very happy new year. And thank you so much for tuning in. Bye-bye, everybody.